Hello and welcome to The Arise interview, where we take time to reflect on the big stories from the news and on the fortunes and affairs of the world in an hour of conversation with commentators, analysts and thought leaders. I'm Charles Aniagolu. Coming up in the next 60 minutes, now that a lot of people have had the streaming experience and can see how cheap and convenient it is, do cinemas still have a place in a post-lockdown world? Film sets have also been shut down amid the coronavirus pandemic. Could we actually run out of new things to watch? We'll speak to the chairman of the Nigerian Cinema Exhibitors Association, as well as a movie distributor, the CEO of a new streaming service, and a Nollywood film producer in a moment. And the coronavirus is definitely changing the movie viewing habits of many people. Audiences are now finding out and being taught that they can get a quality film in their home much cheaper. And of course, this means that you can see it when you want, where you want. Now, imagine a family of four. A few months ago, if they wanted to see something like Trolls World Tour, the new animated blockbuster movie that premiered online, they would have at least paid $10 a ticket in the US or its equivalent elsewhere. Then on top of that, they would have purchased possibly popcorn and beverages. And they would have walked out probably paying $60 to $70 for the night, whereas when Trolls World Tour was streamed, suddenly the entire family could enjoy it for the tremendous value of less than $20. We'll talk about all that in a hot second. But first, here's the trailer for the new film Tenet, that's billed as the movie that would kickstart cinema going in our coronavirus world. And note the words at the end of the trailer that say, "See the movie in cinema theaters for maximum effect."
We all believe we'd run into the burning building. But until we feel that heat, we can never know. You do. You chose to die instead of giving up your colleagues. That test you passed? Not everybody does. Welcome to the afterlife.
To do what I do, I need some idea of the threat we face.
Something worse.
All I have.
Wait.
Don't try to understand it. Feel it.
What'll happen here?
Hasn't happened yet.
Well, I said it. See the movie in theaters for maximum effect. That's a big plug for returning to the cinemas. Well, for more on the challenges facing cinema exhibitors in the era of COVID-19 and lockdowns, I'm joined now from our Lagos studios by the chairman of the Nigerian Cinema Exhibitors Association, Patrick Lee. Patrick, thank you very much indeed for coming in.
Thank you, Charles. Thank you.
And is it unfair and perhaps inaccurate to report Trolls? I mean, we're going to see it in a minute, but Trolls is the movie that premiered entirely online. Is it unfair to report it as being some watermark or indicator of success? Because I mean, here you have most kids in the world stuck at home and driving their parents crazy, and so of course Trolls would do $90 million, whatever it is, whatever it raked in. I mean, the question perhaps should be, why didn't it do $100 million?
Well, I think it's a little bit unfair to use Trolls as being a watershed moment, because when you look at any big movie that may have released after Trolls, there are not many. In fact, there's virtually none. I'm glad you actually used Tenet as your advert, because that's the kind of movie that you want to watch in the cinema. You don't want to see it on a small screen. It's built, made for the big screen. And Trolls was a children's movie. It was due to release in March. It was supposed to be an Easter movie. And I suppose that when the coronavirus came up, the producers of the movie made a decision. They decided to go online. Yes, they made quite a bit of money online, but after Trolls, not many productions actually went online. They still stayed for cinema viewing, because the cinemas is the best platform to be able to ensure that you are guaranteed value for money when you watch a movie. Most of the big movie productions still stayed with the cinema platform. And so we're very pleased that that has happened. And we expect that once the cinemas begin to show films again, Tenet has come out in South Korea over the last weekend. It's out in the UK yesterday, and much of it today. And we're going to have it in the US by next week. And we hope in Nigeria also by next week. So we will be able to gauge what the customers feel about not having watched movies for quite a while. And we think that there will be a lot of interest, and we don't see Trolls as being a watershed moment for cinemas in terms of movies going online for streaming. No, we still believe that we have the best platform. It's the platform that actually makes the most money for the producers, and we are confident that going forward, most of the productions will stay with the cinema platform, and people will continue to enjoy them on the big screen.
Well, then give us a sense of what it's been like these last, if you like, 6 months, odd months of lockdown. Because, I mean, we've heard of cinemas in the US, for example, having been forced to shut down and unplug all their equipment. I mean, you know, starting to look for opportunities in sort of takeout services. So people stuck at home watching movies on television, and the cinemas are now offering people movie theater popcorn. And I mean, selling these massive bags of popcorn that are the equivalent of 10 large popcorns and so on. I mean, surely that won't make up for the fall in income, will it? I mean, so give us an idea of what it's been like for you guys here.
No, you're absolutely right. We've been shut down now for 6 months. It's cost the industry over $6 billion, and naira, sorry, and that's a huge amount for us. And we have found it very difficult over this last 6 months. Some productions have been put on drive-in cinemas, but they've not been relatively successful. We expect that when we open, we will be able to bring back most of the customers. Now, in the US, you've had some cinemas going ahead and saying that, okay, we'll provide popcorn at home, we'll give you whatever it is. But here, we don't have that kind of luxury or that kind of option. What we've done here is to ensure that most of our customers still have an interest in what's going on with us as cinema exhibitors. And we're telling most of our customers that, look, the films we have that are lined up for the rest of the year are exciting films. We've got Nollywood productions, we've got Hollywood productions that are going to be released soon. We still have Mulan coming out, we have Tenet, we have Wonder Woman, we have Alakada Reloaded. All these are movies that are going to come out between now and the end of the year. And we expect that most of our customers are going to come back and enjoy the cinema experience that they've been missing for quite a long time. There have been quite a lot of tweets going on our cinema platforms about people asking whether we are open, and when we do open, what are we going to do? And we've tried to keep most of them engaged, and we're quite confident that we will open soon, and once we do open, most of our customers will come back in a very safe environment.
Well, I guess the problem for you and other cinema exhibitors, Patrick, is that even if cinema theatres start showing movies again in the next few weeks or months, I mean, it'll be different and not what you might call normal for a long time, because of course there will now probably have to be safety precautions such as social distancing measures and the number of people you could put in one theatre at the same time and so on.
Yes, that is very true. We will have social distancing measures. Fortunately for most of the cinemas, we operate already, in pre-COVID and after COVID, we already operate probably on about 20 to 40% capacity anyway. So we're already used to not having full halls most of the time. And what we will do now is we will not have more than 50% capacity in any of our halls. We will also provide social distancing. And as you know, when people come in to watch a movie, they're basically sitting down facing forward. They have their face masks on, they'll be facing forward, and they'll only take their face masks off when they want to eat or drink. People don't talk in the cinemas anyway. And so we have a situation whereby we're ideally placed to be able to ensure that most people who come into our cinemas will adhere to most of the protocols that are already in place for COVID-19. And it's only when you have people who come in terms of families, for example, that they will be able to interact with one another or sit close to one another in any of the halls. We will also have, as much as possible, ensure that we go cashless. Most of our attendants will have face masks on, they'll have PPE equipment. Where we can, we'll provide screens. We'll also do online bookings, and we have the capacity in some of the cinemas to be able to ensure that you pick your seat, so we can allocate seating via our POS terminals. So we're already prepared for the protocols that we have to put in place to ensure that when people come into the cinemas, they are safe. And I think that with those safety measures, which we've already announced, publicized, and put on all our media platforms, and even in mainstream platforms, we will ensure that when the customers do come in, they're in a safe environment. We're also going to increase the amount of time in which we show movies during the day, so we'll have about 20 or 30 minutes in between each movie, so we can safely exit people from the cinema halls before we bring in new people, and ensure that the halls are cleaned properly, fumigated when we need to. So all these safety protocols we are putting in place, and we think that we can ensure a very safe environment when most customers do return to the cinemas. And of course, remember that cinemas around the world have been open for the past 1 month. In the UK, in France, in Italy, they've been open. Even in Saudi Arabia, Egypt, and China have just opened recently. And since the opening of most of these cinemas, not one case of COVID-19 has been linked to the cinema environment. So it's a relatively safe place, and we're continuing to ensure that all around the world and in Nigeria, we provide a safe environment for customers when they do return to enjoy what they've missed for so long.
Okay, well, Patrick, I hope it all goes well, and we'll be keeping an eye on things as they continue to develop. But I want to thank you very much indeed for coming in. And Patrick Lee is the chairman of the Nigerian Exhibitors Association, and he was talking to me there from our studios in Lagos. And you're watching the Arise interview. Plenty more still ahead as we continue our chat about cinema in the era of COVID-19. Stay with us. Welcome back to the Arise interview. I'm Charles Aniagolu. Now, Trolls World Tour is an animation film centered around two trolls called Poppy and Branch, who work together to maintain peace between different musical tribes. It's not exactly a classic, but it's not terrible either. Yet this animation has been hailed by some as the film that might have broken the Hollywood business model. And that's because Trolls World Tour went straight to streaming services online and did not premiere in any big theaters or cinemas. It couldn't because, of course, there was a lockdown. Instead, fans paid to watch it in the comfort of their own homes. Despite that, it's done very well, making tens of millions of dollars for the studio Universal that distributed it. And now everyone's asking, what's the point of premiering a film in a cinema anyway? Why not always go online first? Well, in a moment, we'll speak to a distributor and the CEO of a new streaming service. But first, here's the trailer to the groundbreaking animation film Trolls World Tour.
Once upon a time, there were two trolls. They saved the world. Pretty cute, right? Not to me. I'm the type of cloud that goes for this sort of thing. Anywho, what Poppy and Branch didn't know was their world was a lot bigger than they thought. A lot bigger.
There are other kinds of trolls. Our ancestors created 6 strings, each for a different type of music. Rock, country, techno, classical, funk, and hip-hop.
Tiny Diamond is my name. Come straight from my daddy's name. My body's made of glitter, and I'll throw it in your face. Peace and love, Tiny and Daddy Al.
There's a world full of other trolls. How different can they be?
I'm gonna unite the 6 strings. By the end of my world tour, I'm gonna turn all the trolls into rock zombies.
Rock and roll!
We'll overpower them with glitter.
She wants to destroy us. We need to unite the trolls to save all music. Let's sing them the most important songs in the history of music.
This ought to be good.
Yo!
And that's the movie Trolls World Tour, which has grossed, just released in April, grossed more than $90 million and released entirely online. Well, for more on cinema in the era of lockdowns and COVID-19, I'm joined now from our Lagos studios by the CEO of the FilmOne cinema chain in Nigeria and one of the most prominent movie distributors in Africa, Moses Babatope. Thank you very much indeed, Moses, for coming in. And you are, of course, in the very unique position of straddling the two sides. I mean, you preside over a massive cinema chain, FilmOne, but at the same time, you're also a distributor. So, you know, you deal with anything. I mean, you deal with Netflix and all the rest of them, which are streaming services. I mean, are you, people like you, worried that people won't want to come back to cinemas? I mean, they're getting used to watching films at home on a smaller screen, and maybe they're worried about coming to a cinema where they have to sit close to strangers, or it really doesn't matter to you because, I mean, either way, you're making your money, either online or in cinemas.
Thank you very much, Charles. Thanks for having me, and thanks to the Rise channel for giving us a platform to talk about the sector. The cinema chain is actually called Filmhouse Cinemas. I'm a co-founder of that. And the distribution company, or the content side of it, is called FilmOne Entertainment. And you're right, we sit on both sides of the value chain. And for us, the impact of COVID has been, you know, very felt on both sides of the divide. Going through your question, of course, we are apprehensive. We are, you know, a little concerned that the longer the shutdown of our locations go on, the harder it will be for guests to come back, or the more concerned they will be about their safety. But I would like to say we are convinced and sure about the human appetite for shared experiences. I also think that there is something peculiar about the Nigerian people in terms of, you know, having communal experiences. And I think because of the virgin nature of our cinema industry, I think that we're set to see a very, very good rebound or good reset of our sector. And I think it will work in our favor anyway. So we of course will be naturally apprehensive, but I expect the cinema business to rebound just because people want to come out and people want to have fun. What we have to do is to ensure that we, as my colleague Mr. Patrick Lee and the chairman of the Cinema Exhibitors Association of Nigeria said, is to ensure we have safe environments and make the safety protocols part of the experience for our audiences. You did talk about our distribution side. Yes, we deal with the likes of Netflix and the likes of other online platforms, but it must be noted that, you know, in all of what COVID has impacted on, yes, the online spectrum has seen a boom, but other areas have been affected, such as, for example, Nollywood sells films to about 20 airlines globally. We've not been able to do that because the airline sector has been hit. We've talked about the cinema sector that is one of the biggest contributors to premium content. That has also been hit. in terms of festivals where people would pitch their films to get, good deals, that has also been hit. So from a distribution standpoint, it's not really anything to be really excited about. We're happy that there's a lot more penetration on the online side. Hopefully, as data continues to, improve and becomes more accessible and affordable, hopefully we'll see a complement we'll see more of a complementary contribution as opposed to a substitutionary, effect on the overall value chain.
But I mean, is it your sense now that the streaming service has really come forth to challenge cinemas? I mean, could we now be seeing perhaps two types of films? I mean, one, the kind of film that people will say, okay, maybe Tenet or something, it's a sort of big blockbuster with big special effects and big audio that's going to demand a big screen. But then you've got mid-level films like Trolls, for example, and others, which only would have made 100 or 200 million or something in the theater. And you're now seeing film studios that you sometimes deal with saying, well, maybe this is worthwhile to stream instead of putting it in a cinema theater, and it'll be cheaper for them all around.
Thank you, and I think that's a great observation to make. And of course, when you see numbers from Trolls, it's easy to jump into such conclusions. I mean, the numbers are there to show that it quite worked when it was released. But for me, I try to look at that conversation in two sides, in twofold. I think from a Nigerian content perspective and Nigerian consumer perspective, I think that definitely our audiences are now getting used and exposed to seeing our films online. I think that's a good thing. I also think that the more we can get local platforms playing our local content, like I said before, the more we can see more investment in critical infrastructure, particularly on the online side. I think the more that's great for our sector, great for producers, great for writers, great for artisans, great for us to do. We do a lot of films anyway, and we've always struggled with getting those films out and money. So I think that's great. But on the cinema side, my resolve, and I'm strengthened by the fact that it's, like I said, it's relatively new. The experience is relatively new. I think that we like to experience, like you said, the sound, the big picture, the ambience. We like the food, that we get out from it. I honestly believe that from a Nigerian content perspective, that it gives us an opportunity to challenge ourselves to ensure that the best of films make it to the cinema. I think that, we also have a responsibility as cinema operators to ensure that we deliver the best experiences for people, such that even with the advent of streaming and its growing penetration, it becomes complementary to that premium film. So you are able to generate revenues from the cinema, and once it's done from the cinema, you're also able to generate revenues from the streaming platforms. And from a content creators' point of view, who might not be able to have resources to make, stuff for the big picture, they're able to access local platforms. So I think that, this is kind of an opportunity for us to build a real structured industry. I think that this is what the pandemic has brought to us, and as stakeholders, as decision makers, as business people, we have a responsibility to make it work for us.
Okay. Moses, I want to thank you very much indeed. Very, very enlightening. Moses Babatope is the CEO of the FilmOne cinema chain in Nigeria and one of Africa's most prominent movie distributors. Well, we'll be back in a moment with more from this time. We'll be talking to the medical superintendent of This Day Dome and Isolation Center on the treatment of COVID-19 in Nigeria. Stay with us.